exactly what he did. Things. Right? I'm not exactly sure how a girl works, how dice work. It's in Yoni Kishuf, which you either know about it or you don't know about it. And I don't know about it. So the one little thing I did see, very interesting one, was he used dice. Apparently, well, I don't know whether they had a board with the 12 mazolas or whatever. And the problem is, you see, Kishuf works on the mazel. It affects a person's mazel. But Klal Yisrael haven't got a mazel.
I don't say they have man.
There's other. But in what it says, a mazel Yisrael, Klal Yisrael have got no mazel. So what was Haman playing at? Klal Yisrael have got no mazel. Individuals have got a mazel, but Klal Yisrael collectively have got no mazel. So what was Haman playing at? So the Malbim says, David, he knew he couldn't do anything, he couldn't find a day which was bad for Klal Yisrael in the mazolas, because there's no mazel. They're either above the Malan HaTeva or they're below Teva. Either they're trampled on or they're on top. There's no two other positions. He said, but what he was looking for was what would be the best day for him. What would be his best day? Now he was actually on the 14th of Nisan. So what he did was he kept on throwing the dice, and it kept on not being until he got to the number 13. That's how it works on the days of the month. So it came up number 13. So pushed to the furthest end of the cycle because he was on the 14th of Nisan. Then he does the months, and again it ended up in Adar. So the last possibility, which could work. So that came out the best day for him. The best day for him, and Chazal says it's month of Adar. He said, "Oh, Adar's a bad time for the Yidden." Moshe Rabbeinu died. He thought he's got all scholars. He thought it's Mesugel for him. But apparently, he took 3 dice. I saw this in the Rebbeinu. I can't tell you how it works. If I would throw 3 dice, does it have any significance? Play Monopoly, you get a double 6. You get an extra go. I don't know. But apparently, it came out 1-3-3 on the dice. And when he saw that, he was very happy. What's 1-3-3? Is Agag, his Zeta. So he thought, oh, he's on a winner. He's thrown a winner. But what happened to the Purim story? Yeah, V'napachu. If you take 1-3-3 and turn it upside down, V'napachu, you get 6-4-4.
What?
Opposite of 1 is a 6. Opposite of 3 is a 4. Yeah, and 4-6-4 is David. So that's the V'napachu, yeah. David HaMelech, he wiped out Amalek as well. He also attacked Amalek. So there's the V'napachu, from what he saw, it is 3. I can't tell you what it all means, but a little bit I saw, and there's some of the Farshim who explain it. But when you're talking about the deepest levels of black magic, the deepest levels of however these things work, Haman came up with this date, 13th of Adar. But that was all part of the Hashgacha to give Klal Yisrael time to put it right. Time to act and time to put things right. He then goes to the king. Now, the Midrash would say he was badgering Achashverosh day in, day out, day in, day out. He was shepherding Achashverosh. Let's get rid of the Jews. Let's get rid of the Jews. Let's get rid of the Jews. And Achashverosh was no fool. He was a son of Yisrael, but he knew what happened to Paro. He knew what happened to Sisera. He knew what happened to Sancherib. He said they were more powerful than we are. He said, look what happened to them. But so Haman came up with a very, very interesting argument. Very interesting argument. So let's see what he said. So now it's 5 years later. This is after the story of Big Son of Seresh, yesterday's story. 5 years later now. Some say 7 years, right? It's a long time afterwards, and it's not clear exactly. So Vayomer Haman lamelech Achashverosh. So Haman says to Achashverosh, very strange words. Yeshnoi Am Echad Mefuzah u'meforad bein ha'amim B'chol medinos malchusecha. So now, what's the word Yeshnoi? Hershey, what's Yeshnoi? There is. Yeah? So just say Yesh. Yesh Am Echad Mefuzah u'meforad bein ha'amim. What's Yeshnoi?
Isn't there is that
He's
one?
actually Yeshnoi Poi, Nanu Poi. Yeah? Yesh.
That one.
Perfect Lashon HaKodesh. In Parshas with the Meraglim, Yeah, Yesh Ba'etz Imayin. Yeah, Yesh is proper classical Hebrew. When I did Bib A level, so my Rebbe at the time, Mr. Penn, as long as Unstack, he timed that Yesh is more modern Hebrew, not so much classical Hebrew. So I went back to him and said, what's this? Moshe Rabbeinu said, Yesh Ba'etz Imayin. It's clear, it's good classical Hebrew. So I used it. When I had to translate from English into Hebrew, I used Yesh. Right? Okay. So, what's Yeshnoi? What's Yeshnoi?
Posh Hebrew.
It's posh Hebrew. It's fancy, flowery Hebrew. Yeah? So, what other word can you see in the word Yeshnoi? David, what other word can you see in the word Yeshnoi? There's another word that you can see.
No.
Shanu.
You can get the word Yashan, Yashin. What's Yashin?
Sleeping.
To sleep. So, Chazal say, when Achashverosh said to him, we can't start with the Jews, look how their God has made them survive, everybody tried to destroy them. So Achashverosh said, he's gone to sleep. And also, what's old? Yashan, Noshan, yeah, it's also old. He's gone old. How do where's my proof? Where was his proof that God's gone old? Nebuchadnezzar came, destroyed his base of Mikdash, carted them off into Galus, and their God didn't save them. So you see, he's gone old. He's gone old. And he's asleep. Can't do it anymore. Past it. Well, it didn't go down too well in Shemayim, that. Because Baruch said to him, what? You saying I'm asleep? Yeah? That's why Dafka, the Yeshua came, Dafka through somebody not being able to sleep. It was midday connected midday for Haman. Yeah? He claimed Kiviyachal HaKadosh Baruch was asleep. Kodesh Baruch said, I'll show you. Not only am I awake, yeah? I'll even wake other people up to destroy Haman. But that was his argument. And Achashverosh fell for it. Achashverosh accepted the point. You're right. Seems like he can't do it anymore. Then he goes, he says, Am Echad. He doesn't say, if you the Pshat, the Midrash say clearly that he was talking about the Inn. He didn't actually say openly it's the Jews. Because Haman wasn't sure, did Achashverosh like Mordechai or not? He wasn't sure. He had a suspicion he did. So he calls them Am Echad. Now what does Echad mean? As a keves echad taseh baboyke. What does echad? The keves means once. What's keves or echad? Whenever the Torah says echad, after it's used the singular, it's not needed. So the Gemara says echad means miyuchad. So you say there's a certain people, an unusual people, mefuzar or mefura. Now this is amazing. If there's a whole country of Jews, he knew Achashverosh would say no, he's not going to wipe out a whole country. And even if there wasn't a whole country, but wherever the Jews were, there's cities full of Jews, Williamsburg, yeah, like that, yeah. Again, he wouldn't have done it. So at Haman Tainad, they are mefuzah, they're scattered around the Malchus, but not only that, wherever you find them, they're mefurah. There's no area, even in one of the countries or one city, full of Yidden. They're completely scattered.
There was no ghettos?
It was, well, maybe there were, but he was making out that there wasn't. Now, the word mefurad, the Gemara says, it's Lashon pareda. What's a pareda?
Rabbi party.
It's a mule. It's a mule. A mule.
Type of a horse.
It's like a chamor. Yeah, a pareda. Yeah, but a pareda, the difference between a pareda is it's a crossbreed between a horse and a donkey. It's stera.
Nah.
It's stera.
It's a mix between.
It's a mix of a horse and a donkey.
Horse and a donkey.
Yeah. So it's stera. It can't reproduce. It can't make pairs because it's stera. He was saying, so Achashverosh was still worried that Klal Yisrael can always turn things around. Yeah, okay, they got the base mix destroyed, and they're in Golos, but they're quite good at doing mitzvahs. They're quite good at that, and that produces zchusim for Klal Yisrael. Achashverosh was very hesitant, so he said, "No, Mefurah, like a preda. They don't produce peiros, don't produce mitzvahs. They're past all that now." He said, and he brought proof. They all came to the party. You see, no one was doing mitzvahs there, were they? Yeah, they weren't wearing a Beit Tam's tefillin at the party. Yeah? So, each step, as Ahasuerus had a hesitation not to do it, Haman was getting around it. He's getting around it. The Gemara says, "Lest the other listen to Bishak Haman." He was brilliant. His propaganda was brilliant.
They don't put food in the party? Who says that? Regardless book.
Okay, now, and then he said another thing. He said they are fundamentally different. Now, there would have been people of different religions around the 127 provinces. But even going with different religions have certain similarities. He said, but with these people, their religion makes them completely different. Right? Their religion makes them completely different. To the point, he says, but their laws are so different from all people, that their religion makes them different. That means you'll never get them to marry, you'll never get them to integrate. They'll never do it. They'll never do it because the existence of their religion doesn't allow them to integrate. Well, exactly, he contradicts himself. He just had to convince the fool. That's all he had to do. Yeah, it's all nonsense. And then he says something brilliant. He says, he said, not only do they keep their laws, they don't keep your laws. And he quoted something very, very, to Ahasuerus, which was very offensive. He said, if a fly falls in a cup of wine, they'll take the fly out. If you touch their cup of wine, they'll pour the cup of wine out. And that was really, really offensive. So now he's winding Ahasuerus up now. Now, don't forget, a Sunday shot doesn't need much encouragement, yeah? It's very bubbles close to the surface. But Haman knew exactly what he's playing at. And then he says, V'lamelech ein shoiver lahanichom. Now, the Gemara says another thing. Estosi HaMelech, they don't keep the king's laws. This is what the Gemara says. They go around all year saying, Shihi Pihi. What's Shihi Pihi? Shaggy, what's Shihi Pihi? They go around all day, all year round saying, Shihi Pihi. Says Rashi, when we tell them, can you please do some work? Oh no, Shabbos we can't work today. Pesach, it's Pesach, we can't work today. It was there Pesach then. It was 14 of this. He said, it's Rosh Chodesh today, we can't work. Every time they've got an excuse, they can't work. So they're a bad example.
Should keep him.
Well, again, yeah, and when they do keep it, and also, so what you're worried about, tax revenues, they hardly work. So financially, there's no gain in keeping them. So he's bamboozling Ahasuerus. And Ahasuerus, because he's got an underlying dislike, doesn't take much to perfect it. And it worked. It was very, very effective. Haman was very, very effective. Now, this is how propaganda works. What does we say about the Mitzrayim? It says, Vayoreu Oisonu. So, but most people translate it, they did bad to us. No, it doesn't mean that. They portrayed us as being bad people. Propaganda works. First you make out that they are bad people and they're an enemy of the state, where you build up an image in people's minds, and then nobody will object when you get rid of them. So the Nazis were brilliant at it. They knew you tell a lie often enough and people begin to believe it. So you portray Jews as rats, and you portray Jews as the bacteria and the gangrene of society, and all these things, and they build up images, and then eventually, then you can bring your gezeres. And the Mitzrayim did the same thing. The Mitzrayim did exactly the same thing. Vayoreu Oisonu HaMitzrayim. Then Vayanunu, they were able to afflict us because they built up an image of Ra, that they are bad people and evil to society. And that's unfortunately how it's been ever since Mitzrayim. And Haman was a master at this propaganda. So he says to the king, Iman HaMelech Toiv, Yikosev LaAbdom. Now, who's HaMelech in the Megillah?
Shem.
So Haman's not just speaking down here. Mordechai's writing what's going on in Shamayim. Now, it's a beautiful story. Beautiful story. Pesach Rowan tells over this story. It's a very famous story, I think. We know on Purim, on Matanos Levyonim, yeah, anybody asks you for money on Purim, so you give him. You give him most Purim, you don't. You don't ask any questions, what's it for, who's it for, you don't need to ask questions. You give very, very generously, without any hesitation, without being reserved on Purim. So Reb Chaim Volozhin used to take a bag of money and walk through the streets of Volozhin, and anybody who put his hand out, he would give him some money. So at one Purim, an old Yid, the Oni with a long white beard, comes up to him And he gives him some money, and he says, Rebbe, if I tell you a good vote on the Megillah, will you... You say, in the Midrashim, in the Medrash Rabbah, that when the Gezerah came out in Shamayim, so Eliyahu Novi ran to wake up, went to the office. Went to the office and said, you got to do something for Klal Yisrael. There's a Gezerah to wipe them out. So they said, nothing we can do. If our schus didn't stop the base of English being destroyed, nothing we can do. So he then went to Moshe Rabbeinu. And he said, Moshe Rabbeinu, he said, you saved the Yidden in the Midbar, you got to do it again. So Moshe Rabbeinu said, tell me, what's the Gezerah been signed in? Did Hashem sign it in blood? Or did he sign it with cement? So Eliyahu Novi went and found out it had been signed in cement. So he said, so Moshe Rabbeinu told him, if Hashem's sealed it with cement, with mortar, the Gezerah can be overturned. So asked this old Yid, said to Chaim Volozhin, where in the Megillah is it mentioned that Hashem did not sign this Gezerah in blood? He signed it in cement. So Chaim Volozhin starts thinking. And he said, I give up. Obviously gave him the second handout. He said, no, where does it say it? So he said, well, if you look at this pasuk, we know HaMelech means HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Haman speaking here, he says, Imal HaMelech Toiv, that means if it's good with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yikosev, it should be written La'abdom, to destroy them. Look at the word La'abdom, it's 5 letters, Lamed Aleph, Beis Daled Mem, split it in half, you get Loi, Badom. It should be written, but not in blood. So that's the remnants for it in the Megillah. So Chaim Volozhin was mamish nisbol. He thought, wow, what a vote. Now, the Medrash says there that Moshe Rabbeinu told Eliyahu Novi, is there anyone down there who can daven for them? So he said, yeah, there's Mordechai. So he said, go and tell Mordechai, he should daven down there, we'll daven up here, and together we'll be Mavach the Gezerah. That's how the Medrash finishes off. So the next time he was in Vilna, so he went to his Rebbe, the Vilna Gaon, and he told him this vote on the Megillah. The Vilna Gaon smiled and said to him, do you know who the old man was? It was the same one who told Mordechai. Yeah, Eliyahu Novi, yeah? He was Eliyahu Novi. So I mean, you see all the Ramaz we hear in the Megillah, it's all there. You just have to know where to find it. So then he says to the king, an incredible figure. Now this figure is not a stamp. He said, V'aseres alofim kika kesef, I will pay for the right to destroy the Yidden, 10,000 talents of silver. Eshkel, I will weigh it out personally. Alidei Osei Amalacha, the king's workers, Lahavi al Ginzei Amalach. Now I'll tell you a story about Bizarre because it's very interesting.
How much that worth?
You know, Yekish Shuls, they make Kiddush Friday night and Havdalah, yeah? And they sell the Zchus of Silver Torah. Yeah, it's one of the things to sell of Silver Torah. Yeah, Yain Kiddush Havdalah, yeah. So Rabbi also told me this story. He said, he left Basel nearly 60 years ago. He said there was a Mr. Spitzer in the shul in Basel. He said, this is 60 years ago. More, he said, when he was a little boy, he remembers, because his father was a gabber. And he said he used to bid then 20,000 Swiss francs to make sure he bought every year the kibbutz of Yain Kiddush Havdalah. And the funny thing is, it didn't even include the cost of the wine. It was the cost to buy the wine. He had to provide the wine. So on top of it, he had to do it. He said, this was Silver Torah night. He would come round Motzi Yom Tov with cash, 20,000 Swiss francs or more, wherever the bid went up to. This Mr. Spitzer in Basel, right? And every year he would buy it. So here Haman was doing the same thing, yeah? He offered 10,000 talents of silver to the Zchus, in his opinion, to wipe out Klal Yisrael. To get the rights of Achashverosh.
How much was that?
Now, Tosfos says an amazing thing. Tosfos says this figure was not a random figure at the back of Haman's man. He'd worked this all out. Now we know how many Yidden were there in the Midbar between 20 and 60 or 20 upwards. How many?
10,000.
600,000. If a person says Pasha Erichin, then the Bukhosai, if he says Eriki Allah, he wants to donate his value to the Beis Hamikdash,
Half.
How much is an erech of a person between 20 and 60?
Half.
It's 50 shekel. If you times 600,000 times 50 shekel, you get 10,000 kikar kesef, 10,000. He was buying literally the rights. He was buying the erech, the value of the 600,000 yidden, the shroshi and the shoma, the yesod of Klal Yisrael. He was literally buying the rights, the value of Klal Yisrael. So the Gemara says an amazing thing. The Gemara says, why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu ask them for a machzor shekel in the midbar? They didn't need it in the midbar. The midbar, very few kabbalas were brought in the midbar. They didn't need that many half shekels in the midbar. So Rish Lakish says an amazing thing. He says, Galu v'yadua lifnei misham HaKadosh Baruch Hu knew one day Haman's going to offer a lot of silver to buy the Yidden. So Higdim Shekleihem L'Shkola. HaKadosh Baruch Hu then gave them a mitzvah in the midbar of giving silver machzor shekel, and that was machapa. That was a kapara to negate Haman's attempt to buy the Yidden. So, and the Gemara says like that, from the first of Adar, every year they started telling people, bring your half shekels for the base of Mikdash, which Chodesh Nisan is the new tax year in the base of Mikdash, got to bring the kabbalas from the new half shekels. It's all done in Adar. Why Adar? It's that every year we sort of remember the zechus we had, which negated what went on later on in history in the month of Adar. And this is the real reason, probably, why we're so generous on Purim. Because Haman was so generous in his attempt to buy the Yidden. Generous is... he was very... Now, I want to tell you something amazing. The Sfas says this. Later on, when the Gezerah comes out, so Esther hears Haman and Mordechai screaming in the street, shouting in the street. So she sends a messenger, what's going on? So he told her about the Gezerah, and he also mentioned the money. The money which Haman offered to buy the Yidden. So why was that relevant? What's that going to do with the price of cheese? There's a Gezerah to wipe out the Yidden. Who cares whether he offered money? So one pshat is, he was telling Esther, don't think we can bribe our way out of this one. We can't, because he offered a fortune. Achashverosh will see in a minute, said keep the money. So money's not going to help this time. You've got to go do something about it. We can't do a bribe to get out of trouble this time. By the way, it's a bit of a joke, but it's very true. Why on Seder night do we lift up the cup of wine at V'hisha Omda?
V'hisha Yomda, Lavoy Seinu V'lo.
Why do we lift up a kos yain? Why do we lift up a kos yain? So they say, it sounds like a bit of a vitz, but it's actually, there's a lot of truth in it. You lift up a kos yain. When they used to have trouble from the porrits, what did they do? They sent around a case of vodka to his house. They kept it quiet. So you live on the kos yain. V'hisha Omda Lavoy Seinu V'lo. Shleachot, they all tried to destroy us, and invariably, sending a bit of this round to his house, it did the trick, right? So that's how it worked. He was telling them, no, it's not going to help here. Esther, you got to go and do something. A bribe won't help. But the Sfas Emes says no. Mordechai was very troubled. He was very disturbed by Haman offering a lot of money. He said generosity is a Jewish character trait. Why is Haman being so generous in his offer to buy the Jews? So the Sfas Emes says an unbelievable thing. He said, whenever Klal Yisrael don't use one of their good midas to show us we're not using it, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will send the goyim to take that midah and use it against us. And therefore we're being told, you're deficient here, do something about it. So he said, so Mordechai was very troubled by this. He said, why is he being so generous? So Mordechai perceived there's a lack of generosity in Klal Yisrael. So when the Masakim Purim, but Thomas of Yoinim is without cheshbon, without gevul, just give. He realized Klal Yisrael needs to pump up the level of generosity, and Mordechai perceived that, says the Sfas Emes, in the fact that Haman was so generous in his offer against them. Okay. So Vayosa HaMelech es tabata me'ayotei. So Achashverosh's response, he keeps quiet, but this is a remez in Shemaim as well. It's HaMelech. Takes off his signet ring. Do what you want. Vayidna laHaman ben Hamdosa ha'agogi Tzoyre ha'Yehudim. All of a sudden now he gets a title. Tzoyre ha'Yehudim. Because with this ring, that's what he was going to use it for. Yeah, to oppress Klal Yisrael. So now he gets the official title, because he's from Agag, Tzoyre ha'Yehudim. Now this word Tzoyre is a very interesting word. One of the Mefarshim say, why is the mitzvah Shlach Manos on Purim? Because he called us Mefuzah and Mefurad, we're scattered, we're disunited, we're not together. So to show we're all together, one big family, we give each other shlachmanas to show we are friendly with each other. We do take care of each other.
Wagwan.
They say it's a similar word here. The word sar, to tie something together in Lashon HaKodesh, is vayotzar, to tie it together. So he said Haman, the impact of Haman was Tzoyre HaYehud, he brought all the Yidden together. He tied all the Yidden together. It's a beautiful pshat. Right? That was the impact of Sarah. So it is Sar and Saras and everything, but the impact was Tzoyre HaYehud. Now, Chazal say an amazing statement. Rishon Shadron Zechon once told me, he said, from one Mama Chazal, he said you can get an Oyer Ruchni, which will keep you going for 1,000 years. He said you can think about it again and again and again, and each time you get a spiders, you learn from it, learn deeper. Chazal say, there's one act of Haman, Achashverosh taking the ring and giving it to Haman was more powerful than 410 years of Nevi'im coming every day, every night to Klal Yisrael, saying, do teshuvah, throw away your avodah zaros, do teshuvah. It didn't work, the Beis Hamikdash got destroyed. What got the Yidden to do teshuvah? Taking this ring off, giving it to Haman, say, do what you want to the Jews.
That's a game.
Unbelievable, unbelievable. Because I'll say, unfortunately, the way we work, when the Goyim get very, very antagonistic towards us, then we wake up, and then we start doing what we're supposed to be doing, and then we remember there's only one address to turn to, turn to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's very, very powerful.
It's not proper teshuvah.
What? It's the Tshuva era? Alright, but it's Tshuva, it points us back in the right direction. Right? So, Vayom HaMelech LaHaman, HaKesef Nosim Lach. Keep the money. V'ha'am la'asos b'ikatoi b'nechem. Do what you want with the people. Haman was very clever. He didn't say, I'm going to kill them. He said, la'abdom, which could be to destroy their unique features. It could mean other things. He meant to kill them. But Achashverosh took it a little, it's not as serious as Haman intended. So he said, do what you want. He didn't say, go and kill the people. Just do what you want. Do what you want. So Chazal say, we learn from this pasuk that Achashverosh was a bigger Soidei Yisrael than Haman. Haman offered to pay. At least I'll pay for it. He said, hey, have it for free. Have it for free. So the Gemara gives a marshal. There was two neighbours. One guy had a big pile of sand in his back garden. Yeah, Travis Perkins left it behind after the last job. And the next door neighbour had a big pit in his garden. So every time the guy in the pit looked out in his garden, and he was thinking, I just need some soil to fill that in. And the other guy, every time he looked out in his garden, saw a big pile of soil, and he was thinking, I could just do with a pit somewhere to dump this soil, or this sand. So one day, he calls across the fence, and he says, can I buy that sand off you to fill up this hole I've got in my garden? He says, you want the sand? Oh, please take it, just get rid of it for me. You can have it for free, you don't have to buy it. So here, the seller was more eager than the guy buying it. Right? Haman wanted to pay, but the seller was so eager to get rid of them, he said, no, you don't have to pay, just take it free. Take it free. Quite incredible. Quite incredible. Just to go back to Hisha Amda. I said, every year, I try and say tonight, I said, we think, so the Avodram says, because Baruch Dafka in every door sets up an anti-Semite who wants to wipe out Klal Yisrael. So, and Klal Yisrael survive again, another generation, So we can see because Baruch still loves us. So it's Dafka planned like this. Listen to this. The letters of Haman, Hey, Mem, Nun, if you spell out the letter, it spells Haman again. Hey is Hey, Hey. Mem is Mem, Mem. And Nun is Nun, Nun. That in every Haman, every generation, there's an open Haman and there's a hidden Haman. And like you got today, Iran makes no secret of it, wants to wipe Israel off the map. What does that mean? It means wipe out Klal Yisrael, that's all it means. So he said, so every generation, this happens in every generation. In every generation, to keep showing Klal Yisrael, don't think I've forgotten about you, don't think I've forsaken you. In every day this happens, it keeps on renewing. Till Mashiach comes, then of course the whole world will see the Av of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to Klal Yisrael. So I said to my kids, I said, you know what this is telling us? It's not just in Tehran, they're planning against us. I said it means in Washington they're planning against us, and in Whitehall they're planning against us. Why? If you ever get a chance to go, I recommend it, to the Imperial War Museum. We can't go anywhere now, but if it ever happens, everything's open again. In Lambeth, in London, just near the House of Commons, at the other side of the river, there's the Imperial War Museum where they've got a Holocaust exhibition on the top floor. And as you walk in, there's a saying from somebody who said, all it takes for evil men to succeed is for good men to do nothing. Right? All it takes for evil people to be matzliach is for good people to do nothing. Let them carry on and do what they want. Before the war, Hitler, he kept on pushing and pushing and pushing, and then eventually he started the war. Had they stopped him in 1938, it might have been different. So there are those who want to actively wipe out Klal Yisrael, and there are others that won't do it, but they won't stop anybody. They'll what's the word? Abstain in the United Nations vote. That's all they have to do. All America has to do is abstain, and then all the anti-Israel legislation goes through. That's what happens. It's been a big bracha that they've always either vetoed the vote. But Obama, very interestingly, his last thing was he abstained. His last vote before he left office, he abstained, and he knew that's what he had to do.
Trump, though.
It's an interesting thing. It's an interesting thing. It's all they have to do. All they have to do. So here as well. There's those who want to do it actively, and there's the others, they won't do it actively, but they're passively, but they're all complicit. They're all in it together. Deep down, they all want the same thing. Okay. So what happens is, so they call the scribes of the king, and it says like this: "When the shlach safarim biyad harotzim, they sent out the safarim with the runners. Al kol medinas hamelech. What was the orders? Lahashmid, laharoig, or la'abed. We'll see what this means in a minute. Eskalayed all the Jews minab zakein, from you young to old. Taf enoshim b'yay mechad, little children and women. Normally, it's standard thing in war. Is women and children are allowed to survive, not when it comes to the Yidden. Not when it comes to the Yidden. B'yoyim echad on one day, b'shloisha asr l'chodesh was the 30th of Adar, and then, when the job's done, u'shalom lovos, you can take their money. This was very significant. So now, what are these four things? Lahashmid, Shmad, is going on the neshama. It means to destroy the Jewish religion, destroy the neshama. Laharoig is to kill the person, because a person lives on his ruach. So hereg means to kill the spirit, the ruach of the person. So the guy's dead now. First his neshama gets killed, then his body, then he gets killed physically. Then la'abed, they were going to put the bodies in ovens and turn it into ash. So there should be no zeicher, no physical. Here, Jews. Sounds very familiar, no? Yeah. Everybody, and the fourth one was Sholom take the Jewish possessions.
The Abed is goof?
The Abed, yeah, physically destroy the body. This is on Purim. Extra mitzvah of Purim, reading the Megillah. We've now got a boat. Let's kill them. There's a mitzvah Simcha on Purim. We obliterate the bodies. We've got there's Purim Suda where we pump up, put food into the body, and they wanted to take all the Jewish wealth. They had more money than they had the day before Purim. Wealth. Says the Malbim. Why did Haman knew how the goyim work? They would be more interested in the Jewish wealth than killing the Yidden. Day, and only afterwards take the gelt. That's more of people's interest. And then it was very clever and follow rulers what to do on that day. Wipe out all the Jews in your locality. Protect themselves, shouldn't try and defend. One is to be ready to follow the instructions of the local community. He told me, he said,